The blackness of space was quiet near the Xeros line. It was a border zone, cold, empty, and forgotten by most of the galaxy, but not by the Calfar Dominion. Their patrol ship, Varnex I, moved slowly across the stars, scanning for anything out of place. Inside the command deck, Captain Threx looked at the glowing hologram. His sharp yellow eyes narrowed. "There," he said, pointing at the screen. "Unregistered object. Coordinates locked. No signal. No movement." His second officer, Jal, stepped closer. "It looks human, but it's strange. It's not broadcasting any ID." "Humans don't leave their ships floating without reason," Threx muttered. "Bring us closer. Shields up. I want full scans." The crew nodded and worked fast. The object on the screen slowly came into view. It was massive. Gray metal, scared and old, but the design was clearly human. Its shape was sharp, with blade-like wings and no lights. No signs of life. No power signatures. No damage. It was just there, waiting. "Ship name?" Threx asked. "No markings," said Jal. "No signal. Nothing in our records." Threx stood silently. He didn't like this. Humans were loud and proud about their warships. But this one, it was like a ghost. "Begin scanning," he ordered. The scan beam hit the strange ship. For a moment, everything seemed normal. Then the lights flickered. "What was that?" Threx snapped. "Our systems just dipped," said the tech officer. "Scans being blocked. I'm getting static." "Impossible," Jal said. "That kind of jamming isn't human tech. And this ship is." "Wait." One of the crew suddenly gasped. He dropped to the floor, clutching his head. "Make it stop. It's inside. It's inside my head," he cried. Threx rushed to him. "What's happening?" I saw something," the crewman whispered. "The ship, it's not empty." "But our readings showed nothing," Jal said, checking the data again. "No life forms. No AI. Just a dead shell." "Captain," another voice said slowly, "we just lost 3 probes. They burned out the moment they touched the hull." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Threx looked back at the giant ship. It hadn't moved an inch. But now, it felt like it was watching them. "What kind of warship is this?" Threx asked quietly. "Something old," Jal said. "Something humans don't talk about." Threx's eyes narrowed. "Maybe we should call the Dominion and pull back." "No," Jal said, shaking his head. "Think about it. If we're the first to uncover this, we'll earn favor. A forgotten human weapon. A ghost ship. This could be power, knowledge." Threx hesitated. He knew Jal was right. The Calfar Dominion was always hunting for lost technology. A ship like this could change everything. "All right," he said. "Prepare the boarding team. Full suits. Armored. No mistakes." As the shuttle left Varnex I and moved toward the dead ship, the crew watched in silence. The human warship didn't move. It remained cold and silent. But as the shuttle got closer, the Dominion crew didn't notice something. The ship's surface shimmered, just for a second, like something inside was waking up. Inside the boarding shuttle, Jal checked his weapon. "Once inside, we scan and leave. Fast and clean." They entered through a side hatch. No resistance, no defense systems. But the air was breathable. The lights worked, and the walls looked new. "Strange," one of the soldiers said. "This place looks untouched, like it's been waiting." They moved deeper into the ship. No bodies, no sounds, just silence. Then one soldier stopped. He pointed to the wall. "Sir, look at this." Jal walked over. Carved into the metal, in human writing, were the words, "We are what you made us." "What does it mean?" the soldier asked. Before Jal could answer, the lights flickered. A low hum began to rise around them. Back on Varnex I, Alarms exploded across the ship. The human ship, power surge detected. A tech officer shouted. On the main screen, they all saw it. The dead warship was powering on. One by one, red lights lit up across its body. Threx stepped back, his voice dry with fear. It was never dead. A final message appeared on their screen, translated from an ancient Earth dialect. You scanned me. Now I scan you. Inside the silent human warship, the air changed. The lights flickered red now, not in warning, but like eyes slowly opening. The boarding team from the Calfar Dominion stood frozen in the hallway. No alarms, no voices, just that quiet hum growing louder with each passing second. Jal gripped his weapon tightly. Everyone stay sharp. Keep moving. They passed another corridor. Walls smooth like glass, floor spotless. It felt wrong. Too perfect, too alive. Sir, one of the soldiers whispered, I think this ship is watching us. Jal didn't answer. He felt it too. Something about this ship didn't feel like a machine. It felt aware. Back on Varnak's eye, Captain Threx paced the command deck. His screen now showed the human ship glowing softly along its spine. Energy readings were rising. How is this possible? He barked. It was dead a moment ago. We didn't power it up, the tech officer said, trembling. It did it on its own. After we scanned it. Pull the team back, Threx ordered. Now. Inside the ship, Jal's comm crackled. The captain's voice came through. Abort mission. Return to the shuttle. Something is wrong. Jal turned to the team. You heard him. Back to the... Suddenly, the hallway changed. The path behind them was gone. A wall, smooth and solid, like it had never been a hallway. What? A soldier said, stepping back. That's not possible. We came from there. No, Jal said. His voice was low. Cold sweat ran down his face. The ship is changing itself. Back on the Dominion ship, chaos grew. Sir, the tech officer shouted. It's scanning us now. What do you mean scanning? Threx asked. I mean it's going through our ship, our systems, our records. It knows who we are, what we've done. A new message appeared on their screen. You scan to understand. I scan to judge. Shut down the link. Threx screamed. But it was too late. The lights on Varnak's eye dimmed. Engines stopped. Weapons offline. They were floating, powerless. And the human ship was only getting stronger. Inside the ghost ship, Jal led his team forward, looking for any way out. This isn't a ship, one soldier muttered. It's a trap. No, Jal said. It's a weapon. They entered a large chamber. In the center stood a black pillar, humming softly. Around it floated hundreds of small drones. Metal spheres, perfectly still. One moved. It hovered toward Jal. Slowly, like it was thinking. What is it doing? The soldier whispered. The drone stopped just inches from Jal's helmet. Then it spoke. Not with sound, but directly into their minds. You are not human. You do not belong. Everyone stepped back in shock. The voice was calm, cold, ancient. Who are you? Jal asked aloud. The drone floated around him like a curious animal. I was left behind, buried, forgotten. I watched the stars change. I watched your kind grow violent. What do you want? Jal asked again. I want to know why you came here. We were scanning, Jal said. We thought this ship was dead. The drone paused. I was asleep, until your scan woke me. I saw your minds. I saw your war, your cruelty, your hunger for power. Another wall shifted. A new path opened. This one glowed faintly. Sir, the soldier whispered. It wants us to follow. Jal hesitated. We don't have a choice. As they stepped into the new corridor, the door behind them closed. Back on Varnak's eye, the captain stared at the dying lights. "Any way to regain power?" he asked. "No, sir," the tech said. "The ship, it knows our systems better than we do." Threx's hands clenched into fists. He looked at the screen again. That terrible human ship now sat in front of them like a god, waiting. And then something new happened. The human ship spoke, across every speaker, every screen, every system. "You wanted to learn. Then learn this. Your fear does not stop me. Your weapons do not touch me. I am memory. I am wrath. I am what the humans built when they were not afraid of monsters like you." The bridge went silent. No one moved. No one spoke. They now knew. This was not just a ship. It was a guardian, a judge, and it had awoken. Jol's boots echoed on the metal floor as the team moved deeper into the human ship. The corridor ahead pulsed with red light, like a heartbeat. Behind them, the path had sealed again. "We're inside something alive," whispered one soldier. "This isn't just a machine." They reached a massive chamber. It was circular, with high walls filled with symbols, some in ancient human languages, others unknown even to the Dominion. In the center was a large black orb, floating in midair. It pulsed softly with white light. The same cold voice entered their minds again. "You seek to use what you do not understand. So now, you will understand." Suddenly, the room changed. The floor beneath them became glass. Below it, moving like shadows in water, were visions, images, memories. One by one, they appeared. A planet burning, Earth, humans crying, fighting, dying, alien fleets above the skies, bombing cities, leaving ruins. Then came the factories, giant machines, humans building in silence, their faces hard, their eyes full of rage. And finally, the ship. This ship, forged in darkness, alone, different from the rest, too dangerous, too powerful. It had a name. Revenant. Jol stepped back, stunned. "This ship, it was built after the war," he said. "After humans were attacked." The voice replied. "They lost their families, their worlds, their peace. They created me not to fight battles, but to end them." One of the soldiers fell to his knees. "Sir, we shouldn't be here. This thing, it hates us." "No," Jol whispered. "It doesn't hate. It remembers." On Varnak's eye, the crew worked in silence. All systems remained frozen. "We've tried everything," the tech officer said. "Manual overrides, external boosters. The ship has locked us out. We're not even in control of life support anymore." Captain Threx watched the human warship on the screen. It hadn't moved, but it didn't need to. It had already won. Then a new signal lit up, a personal file, transmitted directly to Threx's command chair. "What is this?" he asked. The screen flickered. And then he saw himself, Threx's own face. Years ago, during the invasion of a small human colony, his ship fired first. He remembered it. He had ordered it. The colony had no defenses. Children died. Families burned. Now the ship showed it all, through his own eyes. "You think it's reading our memories?" he asked. "No, sir," the tech said. "It's showing us ourselves. It knows what we've done." A new message appeared. "You judged humans as weak. Now I judge you by your own actions." Threx sat back, feeling cold for the first time in his life. Inside the ship, Jol and his team stood still as the floating orb brightened. "You scanned my hull to find secrets," the voice said. "But you forgot. Some secrets scan you back." "We didn't come to fight," Jol said. "We came to learn, to understand your purpose." "Then understand this," the ship said. "I was built for one purpose. I do not protect humans. I avenge them." Without warning, the wall in front of them transformed into a giant screen. More images flashed. Alien empires crumbling. Ships torn apart mid-warp. Entire fleets vanishing. One image showed a massive galactic war council. Every race was present, except humans. They thought humans were gone, that they had broken them, the voice whispered. But humans left behind something greater than vengeance. They left me. Back on Varnak's eye, alarms suddenly came alive. Sir, another ship just dropped out of FTL. Human? Threx asked. No, sir, it's Dominion, the officer replied. One of ours. It was the Valgur, a Dominion battleship. Finally, help, Threx said. But then, the Revenant moved. Its massive body shifted just slightly, barely noticeable. And yet, every alarm screamed. Energy buildup spiked. Weapon systems that hadn't existed seconds ago appeared across its hull. Sir, the tech officer shouted. It's targeting the Valgur. Send a warning. Tell them to retreat. Too late. The Revenant fired one shot. Just one. A beam of red light, silent and instant. The Valgur didn't explode. It vanished, like it had never existed. Everyone on the bridge froze. Even Threx, a war-hardened captain, felt his knees weaken. Dilly, what kind of weapon is that? Someone whispered. The screen answered. One I was never allowed to use, until now. Inside the ship the orb dimmed. The door behind them opened again. You may leave, the voice said. Jal looked around. Why now? Because now you know what I am. Jal turned to his team. Back to the shuttle. Move. As they left, the walls of the ship slowly returned to silence. But the feeling never left. That they were being watched. That this ship would remember them. Always, the Dominion High Council gathered in the Grand Chamber. The walls were tall and shining. The air buzzed with nervous voices. Ambassadors from dozens of alien races sat around a circular table. Their eyes watched the center screen, which showed the still image of the Revenant, the silent human warship. What is that thing? One delegate shouted. Why did it destroy one of our own ships without warning? Another slammed his fist on the table. It is a ghost ship, a weapon left behind to curse the galaxy. Where is Captain Threx? Asked the chairman. Alive, replied a communications officer. But shaken. His entire crew refuses to re-enter the system. The room fell silent. That's when the lights dimmed. A deep hum filled the chamber. Then the main screen changed, without anyone touching it. Words appeared. Slow, calm, cold. You watched as they suffered. You laughed when Earth burned. Now, you will listen. Delegates looked around in panic. Who's doing this? One shouted. Shut it down. No one can, whispered the technician. It's not coming from any known source. The signal is everywhere. Then a video played. It showed images of humans before the war, laughing, building, exploring space. Then the invasion began. Alien fleets attacked. Children screaming. Cities in flames. Old people begging. No help came. And the voice returned. You called them weak. You called them pests. You thought they would vanish. More images flashed. The building of the Revenant, deep underground. Scientists crying as they worked. Soldiers volunteering, even when they knew they wouldn't return. They didn't vanish. They made me. The chamber grew colder. One elder stood slowly. This is a threat. A war declaration. No, said another, shaking. It's a warning. Suddenly, the video paused. A single image remained. A map of the galaxy. Stars and systems lit up. Red marks over dozens of old battle sites where humans had been wiped out. Then new red dots blinked. They were Dominion worlds. One by one, they turned black. You erased their homes. Now they erase your lies. Back on the Varnak's eye, Captain Threx watched the message repeat again and again. Some of his crew wept. Others just stared. Jal stood beside him. "Captain, it's not just a weapon. It's a memory. A memory built to strike back," Threx muttered. "And now it's showing everyone what we did." "They called it Revenant," Jal said. "It means something that returns from death." Threx didn't respond. He just looked at the dark screen. "Tell the council," he finally said. "We poked a ghost, and now it's awake." In a far system, beyond the Dominion's borders, a lone listening station received the same signal. A small group of human survivors, hidden for decades, watched the broadcast. Tears rolled down one woman's face. "It survived," she whispered. "The ship, it survived." Another man nodded. "And it remembers." The children behind them gathered close. For the first time in years, they felt something strange. Hope. In the council chamber, panic broke out. "Send fleets to destroy it," one yelled. It wiped out the Valgur with one hit. No fleet would survive. "What do we do?" asked the chairman. The screen lit up one last time. A final message. "You can run. You can lie. But I will always find those who destroyed Earth. I do not forgive. I do not forget." And then the signal ended. The screen went black. The chamber was silent. The galaxy had heard the message. The ship had spoken. And nothing would ever be the same again. The galaxy held its breath. In the Dominion High Council chambers, there was only silence. The message from the Revenant had spread across every communication network. News feeds were flooded with images of the ship, a symbol of pain, a symbol of revenge, and a symbol of humanity's wrath. Across the stars, the Council's enemies, alien empires, warlords, and trade federations, watched in horror. They had all been warned. The Revenant wasn't just a ship, it was the last of humanity's fury. In the deepest corner of the galaxy, away from the grand political halls, the survivors of Earth huddled together. They had watched the message. They had heard the voice. It was theirs. Their creation. Their revenge. On the Varnak's Eye, Captain Threx stood by the observation deck, his eyes fixed on the stars. His crew had not spoken in hours. They were afraid. Afraid of what would come next. He felt it too. The tension in the air. The fear. And somewhere beneath it all, the growing realization that humanity's warship had shown them the true power of rage. But that power wasn't like anything they had ever seen before. It wasn't just fire and destruction. It was the cold weight of judgment. And the Revenant had judged them. "Captain," Jal's voice broke through the silence. "The fleet is on its way." Threx turned slowly. The word sat heavy on his chest. "Which fleet?" "The one the Council sent to contain the Revenant." Threx grimaced. He had hoped they would back down. But it was clear now. The Council was not afraid. They were stubborn, arrogant. They thought they could defeat what they didn't understand. "The Council doesn't learn," Threx said, his voice low. "And they've sent fleets before. They've always thought they could crush anything. But this is different." Jal stepped closer. "You don't believe they'll succeed?" "No," Threx replied, his voice grim. "The Revenant has already shown it can wipe out an entire fleet with one shot. What makes them think this time will be any different?" In the Dominion High Council, the leaders were scrambling. Their panic was masked by forced calm. "We cannot let this continue," one elder stated firmly. "The Revenant is not just a threat to the Dominion. It is a threat to every power in this galaxy. And if we don't act now," another added, "we will lose everything." A third voice cut in. "We are not the only ones at risk. The rest of the galaxy is watching. We have to send a clear message. We cannot allow a single ship to hold the balance of power." "But we don't know what we're dealing with," one advisor said nervously. "This ship is unlike anything we've ever encountered. It's not even just a warship. It's a symbol. We don't understand its purpose." The room grew still as the leaders exchanged uneasy glances. Finally, the chairman spoke. We'll send the fleet." As the fleet of Dominion ships prepared to leave their station, the Revenant remained motionless in the dark expanse of space. It had no need to move. It was not just a ship. It was a memory, a warning, and it was waiting. In the deepest recesses of its metallic hull, where no one could see, its internal systems flickered to life. Its weapons powered up. The crew of the Revenant, or what remained of them, had long since departed, but their last command still lingered in the heart of the ship. Revenge. It was built into its design. Its core was powered not by energy, but by something deeper, something much older. The anger of a people who had been erased, and the need to make sure that no one would ever forget. Captain Threx watched the stars grow brighter on the screen. The Dominion fleet was moving toward the Revenant, hundreds of ships, yet even with all that firepower, he knew they stood no chance. "They won't listen," Threx said quietly. "They're going to their doom." Jal turned to face him. "What should we do?" Threx stared out into the vastness of space. "We wait." Elsewhere, on a remote moon in the galaxy's edge, the last survivors of Earth prepared. They had been in hiding for so long, but now it was time. Time to return. Time to remember. A woman stood before a group of children, her face lined with age but full of fire. "It's time to show them we're still here," she said. "We've waited for this moment. Now we rise." The children looked at her with wide eyes, their hearts full of questions, but they did not need to ask. They knew what she meant. She reached out to touch a control panel beside her. The Revenant had already been sent. It was waiting for them. It would never forget what had happened. Now it was time to finish what had been started. Back on the Varnek's Eye, Threx's eyes narrowed as he saw the first signs of battle forming on the horizon. The Dominion fleet was nearly within range. "We've got company," Jal said. "It's too late for them," Threx muttered. "The Revenant has been waiting." The stars in front of them darkened. The Revenant had no fear. And the storm was about to begin. The Dominion fleet moved closer, their massive ships forming a blockade. They were confident. Too confident. They believed the Revenant was just another threat they could crush. But they didn't understand. They had never understood. Captain Threx watched the display, his fingers gripping the cold railing of the observation deck. His eyes were locked on the fleet, yet his mind was far away. On Earth, on the people who had been forgotten, the people who had been erased. He could feel the anger rising, like a storm building inside him. "We should be moving, Captain," Jal said, his voice tight with tension. "The fleet is almost here. We can't let them get too close." Threx didn't answer immediately. He was deep in thought. But Jal was right. If they didn't act soon, the Dominion ships would surround the Revenant. "Prepare the weapons," Threx ordered finally, his voice calm but laced with a cold certainty. "But we'll wait for the right moment." The crew moved quickly, following their captain's orders. Weapons powered up. Shields activated. The ship itself seemed to pulse with anticipation, as if it, too, could feel the storm that was about to break. The Dominion fleet moved closer, their commander confident. Commodore Varric was an experienced officer, known for his ruthlessness in battle. He had seen many wars, many battles, but this was different. The Revenant was unlike any ship he had ever encountered. "We've been warned," he said, addressing his officers. "But we are the Dominion. We do not fear ghosts or threats. We are the masters of this galaxy." He turned to his communications officer. "Send the order. Activate the weapons. We destroy this human ship, once and for all." The officer hesitated for a moment. The fear in his eyes was clear. "Sir, the Revenant hasn't fired a single shot. It hasn't even moved. It's just waiting." Varric's eyes narrowed. Waiting for what? Before the officer could answer, the first shot came. A single beam of light, piercing the darkness like a bolt from the gods. It struck the lead ship in the fleet. The Varnek's Eye was still at a distance, but the power behind the blast was enough to send a shockwave through the entire fleet. The Dominion ship that was hit exploded in a burst of fire, its hull torn apart like paper. There was a moment of stunned silence. Then chaos. "Return fire!" Varric shouted, his voice full of disbelief. "Do it now." But it was too late. The Revenant wasn't just a warship. It was a weapon forged in the memories of the forgotten. The people of Earth had been erased from the stars, but they had not been silenced. They had not been forgotten. On board the Revenant, Threx stood motionless as the first wave of destruction began. He didn't need to give orders. The ship was alive with the echo of the past. Every pulse of its weapons, every shot fired, was the will of those who had been lost. Each blast that hit the Dominion fleet felt like a strike against the very heart of the galaxy, the heart that had once ignored Earth's cries for mercy. Each explosion was a reminder. Humanity was no longer weak. It was no longer forgotten. "We're not just fighting for survival anymore," Threx muttered, his eyes fixed on the chaos unfolding in front of him. "We're fighting for the future, for every life they took." He turned to Jal, who stood nearby, watching the destruction unfold with wide eyes. "This is it," Jal said quietly. "We've awakened something that can't be stopped." Threx nodded. "Let's make sure they understand." Back in the Dominion fleet, the chaos had escalated. The Revenant continued its merciless assault, each shot tearing through the Dominion ships with terrifying precision. The power of humanity's last weapon was unstoppable. Commodore Varric was losing control. "We've underestimated them," he shouted. "Call for reinforcements. Get the fleet out of here." But his orders came too late. Another wave of energy pulses slammed into the fleet, and another ship was reduced to rubble. In the midst of the chaos, Varric's communications officer, trembling, spoke up. "Sir, there's more. The Revenant. It's not alone." "What do you mean, not alone?" Varric snapped. The officer pointed at the screen. Dozens of red dots blinked into existence, appearing out of nowhere, surrounding the battle. In the darkness, a fleet of small ships appeared, human-made, old, but strong. The survivors of Earth had returned. They had seen the call. They had heard the message. And they had come to finish what was started so many years ago. The Revenant wasn't alone anymore. Earth wasn't alone. Varric stared in disbelief. "How many of them are there?" The officer checked the readings. "There's too many to count." On the Varnak's eye, Threx allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Dominion had no idea what they had unleashed. "This is just the beginning," Threx said, turning to face his crew. "The galaxy will remember humanity's wrath. They will remember that we were not their enemies. We were their reckoning." Jal nodded. "And it's only just starting." As the battle raged on, the Dominion fleet found itself trapped between two forces, one from the past, one from the present. The Revenant had unleashed the fury of a forgotten people, and now the galaxy would feel the storm. No one would forget what had happened. No one would forget the price of underestimating humanity. The battle had raged for hours, but it felt like a lifetime. The Dominion fleet, once so sure of their victory, was now falling apart. Their ships were burning. Their commanders were in panic. And amidst the chaos, the Revenant stood still, a silent witness to the end of their arrogance. Captain Threx stood at the helm of the Varnak's eye, his eyes scanning the battlefield. His heart pounded in his chest, but there was no fear, only resolve. They had come to this point not out of anger, but out of necessity. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about ensuring that humanity's legacy would never again be ignored. "We're winning," Jal said quietly beside him, his voice laced with disbelief. Threx nodded, but his mind wasn't on the victory. It was on the message that the Revenant had sent, a message that would echo through the stars for generations. Commodore Varric's ship had been crippled. The once proud flagship was now drifting in space, its hull battered and broken. The communications officer's voice trembled as he spoke. "Sir, we're losing power. The fleet is in full retreat. We can't fight back. Varric clenched his fists, his face pale with rage. He had never known defeat like this. The Revenant was a weapon, yes, but it was more than that. It was a symbol of everything the Dominion had underestimated. And now, that symbol was going to change everything. We'll never surrender, Varric spat, his voice cold. Call for reinforcements. We can't let them win. But as he spoke, the reality of their situation set in. The Revenant was not just one ship. It was the will of a people who had been silenced. And now, that will was crushing them. On the Revenant, Threx felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The battle was nearing its end, but there was still one last decision to make. What would they do now? What would happen when the Dominion fleet was defeated? He turned to Jal. It's not just about the battle. It's about what happens after. Jal looked at him, his expression serious. What do you mean? The Revenant is more than a weapon, Threx said quietly. It's a message, a warning. We've won today, but we can't stop here. The galaxy needs to understand that humanity will never be silenced again. If we stop now, they'll just rebuild, and they'll forget. Jal nodded slowly. You're saying we need to make sure they remember. Forever. Exactly, Threx said, his voice firm. We need to make them understand. Humanity's wrath is not a passing storm. It's a force that will endure. Back in the Dominion's command center, Varric watched in horror as the remaining ships of his fleet tried to escape. The retreat was chaotic, and the damage was irreversible. But even as his forces crumbled, he refused to admit defeat. We can't stop them, he muttered, his hands shaking with rage. We've underestimated them. One of his officers turned to him, eyes wide with fear. Sir, the Revenant is targeting us. Varric's heart stopped. What? Before he could react, the screen flashed with a single, terrifying message. Judgment Day has come. On the Varnak's eye, Threx watched as the final act unfolded. The Revenant had already destroyed the majority of the Dominion fleet. Now it was targeting their remaining ships, the ones that had tried to flee. But Threx wasn't interested in their destruction. No, he was focused on something far more important. He pressed a button on his console, sending a direct communication to the Dominion fleet. His voice was calm but heavy with purpose as he spoke. This is the reckoning. You have taken too much from the galaxy. You have erased entire civilizations. You have crushed humanity's spirit. But no more. The price for your arrogance has been paid. He paused for a moment, letting the weight of his words sink in. You will never forget what happened here today. The Revenant is not just a ship. It is humanity's answer to those who would destroy us. We are not your enemies, but we are not your prey. Threx's words echoed through the communications channels, and for the first time, the Dominion fleet fell silent. They had no reply. There was nothing left to say. The Revenant fired one last shot. It wasn't aimed at a ship. It wasn't aimed at anything physical. It was aimed at the heart of the galaxy. The blast cut through the fabric of space, a shockwave that carried the message of humanity's return. The galaxies trembled. The stars themselves seemed to flicker in response, and in that moment, every race, every empire, and every corner of the galaxy knew. Humanity had risen, and it would never again be ignored. On the Varnak's eye, Captain Threx stood at the window, watching the stars. His mission was complete. The Revenant had done its work. The message had been sent. And now, there was nothing left to do but wait. What happens now? Jal asked quietly. Threx's lips curled into a slight smile. Now, we rebuild. We wait for the galaxy to understand. The battle was over. But the war, humanity's war, was only just beginning.